It's said through the legend of Kaldi that the goat herd Kaldi discovered his goats acting funny after eating some berries from a tree. They were so lively that they couldn't sleep that night. Kaldi reported this to his abbot, who made a drink with the berries and found that it kept him awake through the long hours of evening prayer. He shared this information with the other monks, and soon it spread to the Arabian Peninsula and eventually around the world. This is the legend of how coffee was discovered in Ethiopia, told by the National Coffee Association. I'm not sure how true this story is, but it strikes some interest in me. How much do I really know about coffee? I drink it every morning, sometimes the afternoon. I know that before my coffee grounds were in the bag, they were beans and apparently berries. And I know that most of us can't get enough of it when the professors pile on the homework. But I think that we should know more about what we're drinking if we're drinking it nearly every day. There is more to coffee than most people know. So where exactly does coffee come from? Coffeeandhealth.org informed me that the coffee tree grows between the tropics of Cancer and Capricorn. The two most commercially imported species grown are varieties of Arabicas and Robustas. The average Arabica plant is a large bush with dark green oval leaves. The cherries are rounded and mature in 7 to 9 months. They usually contain 2 flat seeds, which are the coffee beans. Robusta is a small tree that grows up to 10 meters high. The fruits are rounded and take up to 11 months to mature. The seeds are oval in shape and smaller than Arabica seeds. The areas of the world that grow these plants often lack credit and sell for undervalue. Fair trade coffee helps get these farmers a fair price, as told by Fair Trade USA. Harvesting can be done in 2 ways. The first is strip picked, in which all the cherries are stripped off of the branch at one time, either by machine or by hand. The second is selectively picked. Only the ripe cherries are harvested, and they are picked by hand. Pickers check the trees every 8 to 10 days and individually pick only the fully ripe cherries. This method is labor-intensive and more costly. Selective picking is primarily used for the finer Arabica beans. The making of coffee takes a lot more than just a coffee pot. The process can be done in 2 ways. The first is the dry method. This is done by drying the whole cherry. It is the oldest and simplest method and requires little machinery. The harvested cherries are sorted and cleaned by hand, and they remove the unripe, the overripe, and the damaged cherries, as well as any dirt, soil, twigs, and leaves. This can also be done by floating cherries in water. The coffee cherries are spread out in the sun. As they dry, they're raked and turned by hand for even drying, and this can take up to 4 weeks before the cherries are dried sufficiently. The wet method is the second method. The wet method requires the use of special equipment and availability of water. As with the dry method, the ripe cherries are first cleaned. They are then pulped by a machine that squeezes the cherries so that the flesh and the skin are separated from the beans. The beans are left with a slippery outer skin and a parchment covering. The beans are further cleaned to remove lingering bits of pulp and put into large tanks. Then it's broken down by natural enzymes and washed again. This takes between 24 and 36 hours. Then the coffee is thoroughly washed with clean water. At this point, the coffee is approximately 57% moisture. To reduce the moisture to a desirable maximum of 12.5%, the parchment coffee is dried either in the sun or in a machine dryer, or a combination of both. Sun drying takes from 8 to 10 days. Next, the beans are roasted and ground. During roasting, the coffee taste and aroma are formed, along with the typical brown color of the beans. Stronger roasting generates darker color and a more intense aroma and flavor. Coffee is typically roasted in horizontal rotating drums that are heated from below, or fluidized bed roast chambers where the coffee is heated and moved by hot air. Following roasting, the beans are cooled down to room temperature. If required, the roasted coffee beans may be ground. This is done in a coffee grinder. Grind size needs to be adapted for each use, espresso machine or filter brew or instant coffee, as this also influences the taste of the cup. After all this research, I feel like I know a lot more about how coffee came to be in my mug. But what about after I drink it? I decided it's also important that I know my benefits or the risks the coffee may have. As stated by Medical News Today, coffee has both benefits and risks. There are benefits that include protecting against type 2 diabetes, Parkinson's disease, liver cancer, and promoting a healthy heart. As for Parkinson's, it has been noted that the caffeine in coffee can help control the movement in those with Parkinson's. There are also risks, which include contributing to anxiety, depression, decreasing chances of pregnancy, and disrupting sleep. All of these benefits and risks are connected to how much coffee you drink. 1 or 2 cups a day is a really good measurement. We can see that coffee is a part of history and a demanding process that affects your health both positively and negatively. Now, when we're struggling to get all of our homework done and our tests studied for this upcoming semester, we can look back at this and remember to drink that magical coffee. I realize now more than ever that there is more to coffee than most people know.